you're going to like this. Go ahead, Theory.
And yet I always seem to second guess, cause of my skin tone, they saying that I'm just a guest. Plus I was 30, so they started coming at my neck. So many shots been fired, I've been feeling like I need a vest. Fuck that, I'ma show them what I got. And all the ones who said I'd fail, I'll admit my shit is hot. And all the ones who came before me, I'ma see them at the top. Cause I ain't never gonna stop, now I ain't never gonna stop until I drop.
Welcome to another episode of Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast. I'm here with Ryan today. Real quick before we get started, the Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast is designed to get veterans off the couch and back in the game, and we do that through inspiration by sharing stories of successful veterans who maybe they had a rough transition, maybe not, but we're sharing what they did to make themselves successful. And I want to do a quick plug in before we get started. My new book, you can go to the QR code below and scan that, and it'll have many links. One of them would be to my new book, Speak Up, Show Up, Lead, a veteran story of grit, growth, and leadership from the ground up. And it's this goofy looking guy's story. So if you want to check that out, please do. And that is all I have for promotions. Let's get to the good stuff. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being willing to be a guest here and share your story and share the wonderful things you have for veterans and the things you're doing for the community.
You got it. You got it. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get it kicked off. So tell us about yourself, the branch you served in, when you transitioned, what that journey looked like for you. I mean, let's go ahead and get right to it.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in a small town in Wyoming. And then when I was 17, I joined the Air Force. Left when I was 18. Spent a couple of years over in Italy. Got deployed to Africa out of there. Came back here in late 05, early 06, and came back to Davis Monthan Air Force Base and served here on active duty for another 6 years. And then I transitioned into the reserves. And then I spent 12 years in the reserves working on computers and building my civilian career at the same time. And then I just retired recently back in 2023 from the reserve. So, I did a deployment while I was on active duty back in 06 and back in 2010. And right after I got back, I separated from the active duty side and went into the reserve. So I guess that's pretty much my career in a nutshell. All along the whole time, pretty much since 2008, I've been an entrepreneur, just alongside of everything that I did in the military, just because I wanted to escape the matrix, and I knew someday that I would be outside of the uniform, and I needed to build skills to do that. So
sweet. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing. I mean, I know you do some work helping veterans not only travel, but there's some other behind the scenes stuff that you're doing as well.
Yeah. So when I did transition out a couple of years ago, I figured out, and many of you and your viewers could probably relate to this, that when you take off the uniform, you lose a piece of yourself, a piece of your identity. And I floundered around with that for a while, trying to replace that. And, it took me a little bit to come across it, but I actually do a couple things now to serve the veterans community. I had the opportunity to travel a little bit worldwide without my uniform on for work and for my own self. And I realized that a lot of myself and other vets really just probably lost, purpose in seeing the world and seeing what this world has to offer outside of being bombed and mortared and shot at and yelled at and seeing all the horrific things that we see, right? And so I realized that I could give back to vets in a couple different ways, and one of those was by helping them get exclusive travel deals to start seeing the world and heal through travel, experiencing other cultures, and so I work with a travel-based company now that offers a home-based business opportunity as well to be a travel advisor, but we also give exclusive extreme discounts on travel, up to 60% off of cruises, 75% off of hotels. And really, my buddy and I, John Rankin, we just tell vets about not only that particular travel club, but all the vet travel deals that we can come across. Getting to the Bahamas for under $500, getting into free national parks, free entrance in theme parks, things like that maybe some people know about and maybe some people don't, right? And so we bring that to the world of the veterans and allow them to heal and experience life in a different way through travel. And then the other thing that I've recently done was I took an assistant chapter director here in Arizona for a group called Fairways for Warriors. We help combat vets heal through the game of golf. So I'm just getting out there and meeting people and playing golf and enjoying life. And golf is a very healing game. It can be very frustrating, but when you're on the course, if you're not focused on that shot and where your ball is going to go, and not focused and keeping your focus only there and not on other things that may be going on in your head or on the world, your shot is a very true determining factor of what's going on in your head. If it goes left, if it goes right, it doesn't go where you want it to go. Golf will tell you that, right? And I find, I've done a lot of different sports in my life, but I find that golf is the one sport that has allowed me to grow personally more than any other sport, for sure. So
yeah. And it's also kind of a community builder too, both travel and golf. So I mean, you kind of hit a double whammy there.
Yeah, absolutely. So so that's what I do to serve and give back to vets. And like I said, I'm appreciative that you invited me on here to share some of that stuff.
Of course. Now, you spent a lot of time in the military, and you mentioned the whole we lose a piece of ourselves once you leave the military and take off the uniform.
Yeah.
What was your defining moment once you transitioned from the military and that made you want to go and maybe go from helping yourself, which a lot of us end up doing, we just continue working because that's just what we do, to now you're involved in helping vets with golf. Now you're involved with helping vets get back out there and travel. What was your defining moment that made you decide to do that?
Yeah, to be honest, like I said, I've always been an ambitious guy, right? I've always taken on other roles outside of what my primary role was, either in the military or otherwise. And I realized when I left the military, I was really kind of tired of people, right? And so and that is good to an extent, but it becomes a double-edged sword very quickly. And I got very secluded. COVID happened, different things like that. And I got very secluded in my house and realized that, my life is more than just working all the time. And once I'm done working, I walk out of my office in my home here, and then I go sit on the couch for a few hours, and then I go to bed and I do it all over again. And I just noticed that I was getting in this kind of rut of monotony, right? Over and over and over again. And I, going from doing all this crazy stuff in the military to this huge low of this, I just kind of woke up one day and realized, there's got to be more to life than this. My best days are not behind me, So I think that, just because I took off the uniform, I can still serve in a different capacity. And, my heart's always been in service. And so, through happenstance, just by connections and different things like that, I got introduced to the world of travel through John and through my buddy DJ. And then as I progressed through that, I just made connections and I got connected with the chapter director out here in Arizona for Fairways for Warriors. I'm still not a great golfer, to be honest with you, but I'm here for, like you said, camaraderie and bonding and being together with brothers and sisters that, may be in the same situation as me, right? Or worse or better, So I hope that kind of answers the question. If it doesn't, I hope you give me a follow up there.
Well, yeah, no, that answers the question just fine. I want to make sure people understand, what the driving factor is. If you get lost, it's very important to understand how you become found again. And what I have noticed throughout my many conversations with not only Vetrepreneurs, but I'm in a couple TikTok and Facebook and local communities as well, where we talk about these tough transitions. And some people end up in drug abuse and alcohol abuse, and some end up homeless. Some just end up living off of their disability and never doing anything. And that what gets people past that is really what the goal of this podcast is to just share what got you past whatever hiccups you may have been experiencing when you took off that uniform. And so that does share that. I mean, that highlights it perfectly. I mean, it's the sense of purpose that people lose. I mean, gosh, when we're in the military, we're told when to get up and show up for PT. We're told what to wear. We're given what to wear. And then, we're as long as we show up and do what we're supposed to do and go to all the right classes. And I should say for us career guys that spent a long time in, you go to the right classes, continue to get promoted and do what you got to do. I mean, the military it's hard, but it's not hard. If you really talk to people and figure out what it takes to be successful in that, there's a clear path for you.
Yeah.
When you transition from the military, that clear path is gone. And so just letting people know that it can be done is super, super important. And you've done it, and I've done it, and a lot of great people who, by the way, had those dark times as well. They've done it as well. I mean, anybody can get past that stuff. They just really have to try and find their purpose.
For sure. Yeah, I think, as you're talking here, there's two things that distinctly pop into my brain that really, because I really don't like when people are like, oh, well, I just woke up one day and, everything was different, like that annoys me, because I'm like, okay, well, what happened before you woke up, right? What was the driving factor, as you would have said, to make you transition or to change, right? And there's really two things. Number one, I knew that from a lifetime of personal development that my brain could be programmed to whatever I want it to be, right? If we go back to basic training, they basically stripped us of everything that we ever knew, ever did know, and they built us back up the way we wanted to, and they programmed our minds the way that they wanted to, right? And so based on my lifetime of personal development, I knew that I didn't like where I was at, right? I didn't like the rut that I was in, but I also knew that my brain could be reprogrammed. Some people are harder than others, and rightfully so. But your brain can literally, it's like a computer, right? You just upload whatever program you want, as long as you have enough focus, concentration, and diligence to do so, right? And the second thing was, I very quickly forgot about the wingman concept, I guess you would say, in the Air Force, right? I'm not sure what they call it in the other services, but there's a lot of truth and value to that. We always made fun of it when we were in, probably, but it's a real thing at war, right? That it's when you're deployed in the desert and you're getting blown up all the time, you never go anywhere without anybody, and there's a real purpose to that, and I think, at least I did. I discarded that quite a bit when I was in the service, but when I was out and I was in that rut, I realized that I needed to put other brothers or sisters in my life, because, as my buddy DJ says, it's pretty hard to see the picture when you're in the frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to have other people like yourself, or like other, brothers and sisters in your life that can call you on your bullshit, for lack of better words, and say, hey man, this isn't what you were made for. This isn't what you were designed for. There's more to you than that. Than what you're doing right now, and thankfully I've built a lifetime of pouring into those people, and so they stepped up to the plate when I needed it the most, right? So.
Yeah, and it's not only programming. I mean, people lose focus on what their why was. I mean, why did you join the military? That why is going to be different when you transition. If you're sitting there wallowing and you want more, but you don't know what to do, I mean, you gotta find something that motivates you, whether it's, wanting to connect with other people, or wanting to serve again, or maybe it's just finding connection. I mean, it can be a number of things. I know for me, I wanted to do more, but it took my brother passing at the age of 35 for me to realize, holy crap, this guy never left. And I've been all over the world, been shot at, blown up in the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And for some reason I'm still here, but he's gone. Obviously God still has a purpose. I don't
Sure.
know what's going on in anybody else's life that's listening right here, but you really have to understand that we all have a purpose here. And
Yeah.
you don't have to believe in the whole divinity or religious concepts or anything like that. Just know that everyone, I mean, we found each other's strengths and weaknesses when we were in the military. It's
Yep.
no different than we come out. But anyway, I want to dig into the things that you're doing because, you know, this is stuff that other people can get involved with and have kind of a lifestyle business or side hustle if they wanted to. So, you know, this travel thing, what is it called and how do people reach out to you to become involved with it?
Yeah, so the company's name is Lavardi, and I mentioned my buddy John Rankin a couple times already. Him and I are kind of the vets within the company that are really advocating for other vets within the company, right? Or with advocating for vets and getting discounted pricing on plans and different things like that. And so that's kind of our role within the company. And again, like I said, obviously we get travel at a discount. The thing is that all of us are travel agents, right? We just don't get paid for it, right? When you go to travel, you go to Expedia or Priceline or one of the big name brands to book your travel. They're still getting booking fees on the back end, but you're doing all the work, right? And it's a $1 billion industry that way, right? And so all we do is show people how to redirect that revenue into their own pockets, right? By becoming, you know, an advisor with the company and booking their own travel. And then they get to not only save money on travel, but they can start putting money back into their pockets when they refer it to their friends or family or whatever the case may be, right? So that's in a nutshell, that's what we do with that. So I guess there's more than just travel there. There's obviously, you know, a lot of vets that I talk to that, you know, want to be an entrepreneur, but they're not sure how to make that transition or that leap. And I think this is a perfect pathway to that, right? Because you can do it part-time around your schedule, whatever you're doing now. And you can, instead of taking the big, huge leap of going from a full-time income to being a scary entrepreneur all at once, you can kind of bridge the gap with something like this. And what better way to do it than with travel, right? So
right.
That's the big thing on the travel side. And then, you know, with Fairways for Warriors, I mean, it's a nationally recognized nonprofit organization, and there's other golfing organizations out there, but because this serves combat vets and their unique challenges, you know, I really felt a passion to get behind this particular program, right? And it spoke to me in a huge way. Because they're, believe it or not, we may be out of the Vietnam days, but we're, you know, a lot of vets and combat vets specifically are forgotten about or pushed to the side, or the VA isn't quite doing what they're supposed to, or, you know, this and that and the other. And, you know, just finding alternative ways to heal is a huge thing, right? Without pumping yourself full of a bunch of drugs, right? I think that it's important that we find, you know, these other ways to heal outside of, you know, just going to check in with the doc and get some meds, right? So
yeah, well, and you know, unfortunately, you know, the VA, they do the same thing that the docs did when you were in the military. They put duct tape and bubble gum on you and get you back in the fight. On the VA, it's just pumping you full of drugs, and unfortunately, if anyone listening here is a physician at the VA, I'm sure that's part of whatever design you guys have, but knowing that there's community that brings more purpose to us and camaraderie and all of that, that's really what we need to thrive. And traveling around and doing cool things. I mean, when you're on a cruise or if you're on an airplane or if you're traveling and just hanging out at a resort somewhere, people are all really, really friendly. I mean, I've done a lot of traveling, not outside of the military, in my life as well. And you know, that it's a really cool lifestyle because it's just a bunch of open-minded people that want to meet other people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You know, veterans or not, when you're at a resort or whatever, everybody just instantly becomes friends. It's there's no political discussions really that are involved. There's no, you did this or you did that. It's just everybody there is there to have a good time and enjoy life to the fullest. And so, you make a lot of really good friends that you never would have thought you could make just by being, by putting yourself out there and going to some place that you never knew. Right. So,
Yep.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I really fell in love with that when I lived in Italy, because I fell in love with the culture. A lot of my buddies, they would just go to the local bar, they would drink, whatever. But, I went out and I took, traveling tours by myself and just met, the Italian people. And, I became such good friends with Italian people that their moms would invite me to Sunday dinners and different things like that. And so I just really fell in love with, indulging myself in the culture, really, instead of just being a traveler. I wanted to learn about it and learn about the culture and understand, the world that they live in. Right. When I went to Saudi Arabia it's been about 18 months ago for my civilian job, it was the first time I was in the desert when I got to sit down with, somebody there and just hear about their culture, their history, their life in general. And it was a lot more fascinating than when I was in uniform in the Middle East. So let me tell you that,
Oh,
So,
definitely.
yeah. And, it just told me that there's so much more to the world than just, getting bombed at and getting bombed and shot at. Right. And
Yeah.
seeing the death and despair that we had to endure. Right. There's just a lot more of the world that we can experience other than that. So,
Yeah, definitely. People, the one thing that I learned during service is that, when you go to a foreign country, you shouldn't trust the people there.
yeah.
However, when you are not in combat, you go to a foreign country, you should make friends. You should
Yeah.
embrace the differences that other people have. I mean, we only used to really do that within our military community. And, that we were told that we were supposed to be ambassadors outside of the military community, but that just meant that you were a professional. It's the profession of arms is what they called us in the military. And so knowing that now that we've transitioned and we've gone outside of the uniform,
Yeah.
we are now still ambassadors for that, but now we're also ambassadors for ourselves, And the one way we can continue to be ambassadors outside of the military is by bridging that gap between that weird look that we get from civilians when we start talking, to help them understand, who we are, that we're still normal people. We just may have a little bit more brash and weird conversations than your average person. And, whether or not we have PTSD, that doesn't mean we're broken. It doesn't mean that we might be a little bit different, but my goodness, aren't we all different?
Exactly.
We got to bridge that gap. That's how we continue to be ambassadors outside as a civilian, and being a veteran at the same time.
100%.
And travel is a great way to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like they used to tell us, right, when we left base and you're in uniform, you're always, representing the uniform. And I feel like we take that same duty with us when we travel to other countries, right? Everybody knows we're American, and, the world probably maybe doesn't have the greatest perception of America, right? And so I think it's our responsibility as Americans outside of the uniform to show people that, America is more than just, bullying people around or doing whatever is on the news that they're seeing, right? That we're more than just that, right? We're somebody who wants to get involved in their culture, wants to learn about them as human beings, and I think we have a responsibility to represent. That's part of being an American, in my opinion, is understanding that other people need to see us in a different light, right? So.
Yep. Well, we're getting close to the end of our show. Sometimes this question, when I ask it, it takes a long time. Sometimes it just takes a minute or two. But if you had one piece of advice that you could give to that vet who is struggling through his transition and trying to figure out what they're going to do next, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say it's really boiled down to three things. Number one, I've said it already. Put the right people in your life that can guide you and put you in the right direction. I spent a lot of my years putting the wrong people in my life, and unfortunately, that led me down paths that were not fruitful, right? And so, trusting your gut, trusting your training, trusting your ability as a human being to know that if you're not doing anything right, at least you're putting the right people in your life. And so when you maybe can't think for yourself, maybe there's some people that you've poured into in the past that will pour back into you now, right? So that's the first thing I would think. The second thing is to know that whatever you're going through now is not the way things will always be, right? They're as it's as constant as gravity, right? Things change, things move, things shift, and as an entrepreneur, sometimes our lucky break comes overnight, right? And we didn't even realize it was due to the days and years and of work that we'd already put in, right? So be present in the moment. Understand that if you don't have anything going on, that you try to be as present as possible with what's going on around you, and know that you're in a season of preparation, right? And we all have different seasons of our life, of our year. And right now, if nothing's going on, then you're just in a season of preparation. So it's your job to prepare yourself, because good things will come, right? And when those good things come, you want to be able to match and live up to those things when they do come to you in your life, right? And so I would say that even when I didn't have anything going on in my life, even when things were always or they looked dark or whatever, I just understood that it wasn't going to last forever, and I needed to be ready for when it wasn't. When things did come my way, that I needed to take advantage of, opportunities that I needed to decide on. Those kind of things will come. The question is, will you be ready for it? And so try not to waste the time that you're in this lull or whatever the case may be. Try not to waste it and just fall into a pit of despair, like so many of us do. It's okay to be there for a minute, but not okay to stay there, right? So and I think the last thing is just keep an open mind, right? Keep an open mind and keep introducing yourself to more people, and keep getting out there and putting opportunities in your path, intentionally, and the right one will come across for you for sure.
I agree with that. And a lot of people blame that on a lack of motivation.
Yeah.
And I think that if they dig back into their military history, that the whole idea behind having motivation to begin with is bullshit.
Yes.
You do what you have to do. And you brought up during this podcast here, you talked about focus, concentration, and diligence.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just doing what you have to do. That's the very definition of discipline, which is what a lot of us start lacking after we take off the uniform. And by the way, that's just a muscle that you have to continue exercising again.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be the target. Find a target and go towards it.
Yes, 100%.
And it's probably gonna suck, and you probably won't want to do it for very long. And if you pivot, that's okay. But go in there and do the same thing that you did for all of these stupid military operations that we got ourselves involved with that started off ugly and ended up fine. Yes. Go in there, try, fail, figure out what you did wrong, and do it again. Yeah. Try something different. Life is the world. That's what do they say? The world is your oyster. Go out there and try as many things as you can. Yep. Variety is the spice of life. Go out there and just figure it out. But yeah, I had to add to that because what you're saying is so powerful. And I just think that if we would get out of our head and get back in the game, this whole veteran population would be a lot happier and a lot better off.
I couldn't agree more. More. Yep.
Well, Ryan, you've been an awesome guest. You've shared a lot of wonderful insights. The one question that you didn't ask when I asked you about Lavardi is, how do people get into contact with you?
Yeah, I realized that as we moved forward, but I didn't want to go back. So you can, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can get a hold of me on Facebook. Just look me up, Ryan Brimmer. I doubt there's too many of us, so you should probably find me there. on Instagram at Ryan Brimmer. You can get a hold of me there. We can have a conversation and see if what we're doing is a good fit for you or not, So those two avenues I think are the biggest thing is Facebook and Instagram. I'm usually pretty in tune with those.
Okay. Well, and that's Ryan Brimmer, RyanBrimmer, and that's if you're at Instagram, or just look him up if you're on Facebook.
Yeah, for sure.
And so this is where we conclude our podcast. Again, thank you for being a guest. And
Yeah.
don't forget to check out, everybody, and Ryan, if you want to as well, don't forget to check out my book, Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. It's my story, and it's basically turned into, even though it could be a lot of woe is me's throughout the whole story, what I did is try to turn it into a leadership lesson in life through my journey and starting a business all the way back to when I was a kid, when there was poverty and child abuse. And I'm not going to go in there and give it all away. You got to buy the doggone book if you want to know it. So
I definitely will. So QR code at the bottom of the screen for that, right?
That's right, Ryan. And for all of you out there, thank you for following me on this journey for the podcast. And we will see you next time. We have a couple coming up even next week. So take care and have a good day.